This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. There was an election, and there's actually over 60% of the world is going through a major election this year. The one we're talking about today is the one for Mexico. Some things will stay the same, some things will be different. Certainly one of the differences is it's the first woman president for Mexico. Juan Garcia is going to be kicking us off as our keynote speaker. We met Juan through the pleasure of meeting with President Vicente Fox, having presented a couple times at the Global Chamber Denver. I see Jeffrey Campos is also here. A lot of Jeffs on the call today. Through that relationship, Juan has been staying in touch with Global Chamber, which we greatly appreciate. 6 to 9 months ago, he was giving some predictions about what might happen if Claudia Sheinbaum got elected. And more recently, after the election, Juan has to some extent been maybe a little bit more positive about what the outlook might be. And so I thought it would be very valuable for him to kick us off, given, Juan, your deep connections and understanding of Mexico, being a premier leader between Mexico and the rest of the world. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for your support of Global Chamber. I get a sense that you have a high degree of optimism. You have some concerns. What should we be considering at this moment in time? What are some of the things that you're observing, and what else would you like to share about the future of business with Mexico?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to unclog my brain. Mexico is...
Before you start, there you go. Your camera is pointed toward the ceiling. Do you have the ability to point it back down toward you?
It's a prettier ceiling than I am, okay? Jeffrey Campos will attest to that.
You're beautiful. We love you.
I thought we were good already with the fan.
That's what I thought, Jeffrey, but doggone it, Doug is complaining.
You're looking good. You're looking good. And thank you for your leadership, especially with President Fox. But you're well connected all across Mexico. So thank you for continuing those relationships. Please go ahead. We love looking at you.
Sure. Listen, first of all, let me say thank you to the Global Chamber. A very good relationship that started with Jeffrey Campos some years ago. I have enjoyed participating with the Global Chamber in their events in Denver and other areas across the country. And I hope that that relationship will continue. I owe it all to Jeffrey Campos. And also the other Jeffrey there from Denver, Garza. If he's on this call, a special hello to him. Let me quickly say that the relationship between Mexico and the United States is still being fanned out, being put to use is the best term I can use. Claudia Sheinbaum being elected the first woman president in the history of Mexico brings a very, very interesting scenario in the relationship. And everybody is still, trying to work their way through the prediction models. There's really no crystal ball to the relationship between Mexico and the United States. Two tremendous trading partners, historically and currently. And I think that's going to continue. And what I'm going to offer you is my opinion, solely based on the briefing packages that I get from the Fox people, the briefing packages that I get from the AMLO people, and my relationships with certain senators in the Mexican Senate, and more importantly, relationships with the 80% of the governors, the seated governors in Mexico. One of the more important governorships right now that's under the microscope is the governor of Jalisco, the state of Jalisco, whose capital is Guadalajara. A gentleman that I know personally, Alfaro is his last name. And through those relationships, I've been able to establish an opinion on where Mexico is going to go within the next 6 years under the Claudia Sheinbaum administration. So let's start with the ever-present problem of crime. And I'm going to speak to crime in Mexico City. It is increased exponentially since Claudia was awarded the presidency. Excuse me. What kind of crime? Everything from petty crime to the most severe of crimes, taking of human life. Innocence, the common guy on the street is looking over his shoulder now when he walks the streets of Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, the three largest population centers in Mexico. Police don't go into certain areas of those cities because they're rendered powerless by the masses. And the masses I'm talking to is the criminal element. And it has nothing to do with drugs. That's the part that's really eye-opening. Crime right now grows exponentially away from the drug trade. Certainly we read about the drug trade in the United States, but we don't read about what propagates the spike in the crime percentages. And the reason we don't is because if we were to dig deep into the cause and effect of the increase in crime, we would be positioning our National Guards from the different states along the border. It's that critical. Mr. Biden, our president, and you know, please, I don't want to take this into a political bent. Mr. Biden understands the problem, but he's reluctant to do anything about it. You don't read about the crimes against foreigners because that would be bad for the tourist industry. But unfortunately, as an American traveling in Mexico, I have to have a bodyguard now. Not because of who I am, but because of who I represent. I carry the title of senior advisor to Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, and I've done a lot of speaking before the political parties in the country. So for the bad guys, I'm a target. For sequester, it almost happened a couple of times, but I'm pretty crafty. Being former military, I know what to do to protect myself. Anyway, crime is a problem right now. Claudia Sheinbaum is not showing her hand as of yet. She's not telling anybody, either close to her or in her periphery, as to what her agenda items are. And for us entrepreneurs trying to work in the country, it's important to keep our finger on the pulse of what her priorities are. At least that's my opinion. But, you know, she's holding them close to the vest right now, gang. She's not displaying what her 5 priorities are or 10 priorities. She's being very cautious as to who she tells what she's up to. And that's sad, in my opinion, because she ran on a platform of prosperity and security. And we're not seeing any of that happening right now. So that's my first message. if you travel in Mexico, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to make something happen down there, watch your six, as we would say in the military. Don't go out at night, walk the streets thinking that you're going to be okay, especially in the big population centers, which is where most of the business takes place. Mexico City continues to be the hub of government and business, and it's one of the more dangerous places on earth. I don't want to make everybody paranoid, but I do want to give you a cautionary note. Okay? Somebody say okay.
Okay.
One of the Jeffreys say okay. They fell
Okay,
asleep.
okay,
They fell asleep.
I think JGW left. I think he had to go off, I think.
Who is JGW?
Jeffrey Garza Walker.
Oh, that rascal. Okay.
Yeah, he's
Second,
there, thumbs up, but engaged. Listen, man. Go ahead, Juan. We got you.
second item on my list is having to do with entrepreneurship. The Mexican president has got a substantial war chest that AMLO left her for creation of opportunity in cleaning up the environment in certain areas of Mexico. And one of the top priorities in AMLO's administration, which he didn't complete, was clean water for the masses. So if you're in the water business, you have an opportunity in Mexico right now. Mexico is seeing drought in areas that have always been very much rainy areas of Mexico, but there's drought happening there now. And the government isn't panicking yet, but they're close to it. There's a joke amongst the senators right now that if you go to Monterrey, Mexico, or León, Guanajuato, Mexico, that you better carry your own jug of water because water is scarce. Potable water, drinking water is scarce. So if you're in the water business, you've got an opportunity there. If you're in the clean energy production space, you know very well that President Andrés Manuel López Obrador did not want to talk about clean energy. He preferred to talk about saving Pemex, the National Petroleum Company, because that's where his coffers were being filled. Now, you're going to hear me use the word allegedly a lot because there is no fact to what I'm going to tell you, but it is alleged that because AMLO was in with the Sinaloa cartel, that he protected their routes, protected their business at the expense of the Mexican citizens. I don't know if Claudia is going to continue the relationship with that cartel. It doesn't look like she is, but who knows? So allegedly, they're still a pseudo-narco state at this point in time. And I would caution anybody that's doing business down there to keep that in mind. So number one is crime. Number two, the cartel influence in Mexico to where the World Economic Forum labeled Mexico a narco state. And that's not good for anybody. The United States, under our current senile president, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that, under President Biden, has done very little to influence Mexico in that regard. Why, I don't know. But we all read the paper, we all read the news loops. It is alleged that President Biden is more concerned with his problems at home, with his dementia and everything else, as opposed to covering the backs of our closest ally, Mexico. So he's turning a blind eye to the problem, allegedly. And that's not good for business. There's a tremendous wave in Mexico right now amongst the common man, the common citizen, to strengthen the military and the police force. I don't know if you knew this, but in Mexico, if you want to be a cop, you start with a relationship with a currently seated cop, and then he puts your name in the hat and you get issued a badge and a gun. Well, that's starting to change a little bit at a time. The police academy system is being strengthened by the Scheinbaum administration, not as a priority or a stated priority, but as a place to put tax dollars, tax revenues into play. The problem is, as I see it, that you're not dedicating enough time to training of these police forces, especially at the state level, because you have the state police and you have the federal police. Now, she might be able to influence the federal police force, but at the state level, there's still a rampant bit of corruption, allegedly, that goes on there. If you've ever traveled in Mexico to any extent, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The governor of Jalisco, whom I'm very close to, and Guanajuato, where Vicente Fox has his compound, I've had extended conversations with those two gentlemen relative to what their priority is regarding their state police force. And the news isn't good. They don't get paid much as a policeman in Mexico, and that's why there's so much corruption. They have to take the bribe, the pinch, as they call it, in order to have a survivable salary. And that only leads to more crime on the street and more problems with the citizenry. I'm starting to think that I'm painting too bleak a picture, but let me tell you, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because I'm still traveling down there and I made it in and out. I haven't been sequestered yet, knock on wood. And I've seen some of the local crime displayed before me in my travels, but they always seem to quell the movement and move on. Now, for the business guy from New York that's traveling down in Mexico and he's wanting to establish a brand, I would say to him, continue to be careful. Continue to only trust those that are in your immediate universe. Don't open up like a good American would do and trust everybody. You have to remain cautious. That's point number 2.
Okay.
Now, point number 3, and more importantly, more to the those of us that lived at one time along the border. Not only is the illegal immigration going to grow exponentially, but it is going to continue to be a top priority for the U.S. government in how to curtail that illegal immigration into the United States. Because along with that illegal immigration comes a lot of socioeconomic problems along the border. Now, Arizona is a border state. Arizona has something good going for it. That's a vast, dry desert that's hard to navigate. That's why you don't really see the numbers of illegal immigrants coming across the border in Arizona as you do in Texas. To get to the southern border in Texas, you have to cross not mountain ranges, but vegetation, water areas, green vegetation, not a desert. So it's easier to get to the Texas border as opposed to the Arizona-Mexico border. But it's going to keep growing, kids. There's no way that a gentleman that sits in Mexico City looking at the hollow eyes of his children that are hungry and he can't provide for them, it doesn't take him much time to make the decision to head north to try to go live the American dream.
Oh, Okay. Um,
I have a relationship with one of the top leaders of the Border Patrol in Texas. And he's the guy that keeps me abreast of the numbers that are coming across the border in Texas. Now, would you care to believe that 40% of those illegal crossings are Chinese or other than Mexicans, OTMs, as they call them? There's a big contingency of Chinese immigrants coming through Mexico into the United States. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do have to wonder why so many military-aged Chinese men are crossing the Texas border into the United States illegally. And it's a catch and release environment right now. So that's a big concern for us Texans, native Texans.
okay.
Doug, how are we doing on time?
We're at time, and so before we move to the next speaker, I wonder if you could address, Claudia Scheinbaum takes office October 1st. So a lot of what you've talked about is current situation that she has no impact on, right? But some of the things you talked about are really critically important that she needs to indicate what the priorities are, especially for investors and people doing business. And so I'm wondering, certainly one of the real strong positives of Mexico is foreign direct investment. It increased 11% in 2023. It's anticipated to increase 35% in 2024. Mexico is benefiting from being close to the U.S. and its close relationship with USMCA. Asians and European companies coming into North America, investing in plants, the US investing in plants, a robust economy by the US. That relationship between US and Mexico has been rock hard and spectacular. So could you comment a little bit about that and what are the implications for the future there, or do we know? Wouldn't we expect that to continue, that progress?
I believe so, but you never know because Mrs. Scheinbaum is not showing her hand as of yet. And that's what gives my friends in the Senate in Mexico diarrhea. Sorry, I can't describe it any other way. Not knowing is causing them to be very unstable in their positions. Now, one could argue, Doug and company, that Mexico's stability is going to continue. There are no other indicators that prove otherwise. If not, we would be sending our Boy Scouts down there to try to placate any kind of civil war that might be starting up. But, and I don't want to sound gloom and doom, which I think thus far I've been sounding gloom and doom. But I can only give you the human condition as I see it and driving my opinions.
Okay.
A border town is not Mexico. Please understand that. You have to travel in the interior of the country and spend some time talking to the populations down there. And they'll give you the truth about where Mexico is headed. Now, General Electric, all the aviation companies are growing their footprints down there. But they're starting to cut back on the number of engineers that they're hiring. You know, in Mexico, you can hire a very good mechanical engineer or electrical engineer for $30,000 a year. That's unheard of in the United States. And that's why Mexico will continue to grow their maquiladora industry, especially in automotive and in aerospace, aviation. There's a lot of opportunity in that area.
Would you be able to hold on while we have a couple more people speak? Do you have a few more minutes?
Absolutely. I'll stay here.
Okay, great. Let's continue to get some perspectives on this. You bring up a really important point, and when I think about some of the successes of Mexico is nearshoring, in addition to the maquiladoras, but to watch over the last 15 years, where 15 years ago, the concept of IT outsourcing from Mexico was just a nation type of very small business. And then between private industry and the government and universities, professors were hired, students were encouraged to take information technology, the markets were created by private industry, and students started to graduate in IT. And now I've not seen a data point on how big that industry is, but I think we all know that over the last 15 years, that's turned into a very strong and continuing to grow industry, even though there's global competition more and more. So I wanted to make sure that if any of you have comments about that industry as well, please go ahead. I'd like to go next to Consul General Yescas. He's the Consul General for Mexico in Phoenix. You're such a tremendously strong, connected leader within the community of around Arizona. So, Consul General, wonder if you could take a few minutes. We have about 30 minutes overall. So if you could take maybe as much as 10 minutes to go through some of the things that you're seeing, and what can businesses be thinking about over the next 6 months, over the next 6 years. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you, Doc. It's a pleasure to be here with several friends and people that I really admire. In regards with what Mr. Garcia has said about Mexico and all the crime, well, it's not about, well, unfortunately here in Arizona, we are experiencing a different narrative. We used to be like Texas 15 years ago when we had this SB 1070 rhetoric, criminalizing or demonizing the immigrants, the undocumented immigration, which is not, by the way, illegal immigration, is undocumented immigration according to the United Nations, because nobody is illegal. So that's the first thing that I want to say. And it's not about putting the finger on the sore spot. It's not how we build relationships. If that was the case, Mexico were blaming the states about not doing enough work in order to stop the traffic of firearms to Mexico, because more than 80% of the crimes that are committed in Mexico, U.S. arm that was fabricated here in the U.S. Is used. Also, we can say that the U.S. is not stopping or not doing enough in order to stop the flow of cash into Mexico that is used by the criminal cartels, or we can call them gangs, like they are called here in the States. And then they can operate all this criminal activity. For instance, the kidnapping has been reduced since January 2019 to July 2023 by almost 70% in the country, in the whole country. The crime rate in Mexico City, according to INEGI, it's about 8 per 100,000 individuals. And if we compare that with San Luis, Missouri, well, San Luis has almost 70 per 100,000 inhabitants. So it's not like doing that. I think we should talk, and I hope in Texas we're able to change that narrative. Our consulate in Austin there has a lot of work to do in that respect, in order to mentioning or changing the narrative. And then if we have a better narrative, like we have it here in Arizona. So I don't know if in 15 years ago, investments like TSMC were able to come and see into Arizona. And then here is my friend David Farca, who worked with Governor Ducey when they won that election in 2015, I think. And then that, for us, according to what we saw, we perceive a very great or very important change of narrative in Arizona. focusing on business, focusing on economic growth, and economic collaboration. Is what we need to do in order first to prosper together. I will read very briefly a text about what we see, I see the next 6 years in regards with the new administration, and about what could be the new opportunities in Mexico. The election of Claudia Sheinbaum as Mexico's first female president marks a significant milestone in our nation's history and brings with it a wave of change and opportunities. As we look ahead to the next 6 years, under President Sheinbaum's leadership, there are several key areas where Mexico and the United States can strengthen their relationship and drive mutual growth and prosperity. One of the foremost areas of opportunity is Sonora's Sustainable Energy Plan. This is a federal presidential plan that is taking the state of Sonora, which, by the way, is next to Arizona, which is very important, to be the pilot state in Mexico in order to make the transition to clean energies. So that was an idea by President López Obrador. So there's a plan, a strategic plan in order to do the transition to clean energies. So this plan, very ambitious plan, aims to expand sustainable energy production, and that is a testament to Mexico's commitment to environmental stewardship and economic growth. The plan not only aims to reduce carbon emissions and promote clean energy, but also seeks to create jobs and stimulate the local economy. By investing in solar, wind, and other renewable energy sources, the state of Sonora is positioning itself as a hub for green technology and innovation. Sonora was chosen by the President López Obrador, and is very, very significant that is at the border state with Arizona. So something very, very important is happening in our region. So the United States has been a key partner in Mexico's energy initiatives, and there is immense potential to deepen this collaboration. By sharing expertise, technology, and investments, we can achieve our energy goals and, in turn, benefit from the economic opportunities that arise from a strong and sustainable energy sector. Our cooperation in this area will not only advance our environment goals, but also fortify the economic ties that bind our two nations. Another critical area of focus is the broader economic relationship between Mexico and the U.S. President-elect Sheinbaum has emphasized economic growth that must translate into tangible improvements for the population. Mexico has, in 2018-2019, about 43% of its population under the poverty line. So now, after 5 years, 6 years of the administration of President López Obrador, Mexico has reduced the percentage of its population under the poverty line about 6-7%. We have about 30% of the population under the poverty line. So that means that Mexico is becoming a more equal country. So the goal is to achieve shared prosperity, ensuring that positive macroeconomic indicators, such as increased foreign investment and a stronger peso, are reflected in better access to economic, social, and cultural rights for all Mexicans. This commitment to inclusive growth is a cornerstone of our bilateral relationship and presents numerous opportunities for collaboration. One of the key strategies for achieving shared prosperity is capitalizing on the global trend of nearshoring. This presents a historic opportunity for Mexico to break cycles of poverty and inequality and achieve annual growth rates of 4 to 5%. By aligning our efforts with these trends, we can attract more investments and create jobs, particularly in regions that have been historically underserved. We had last year the southeast of Mexico growing about 6-7%, and never in history that region had grown that much. And if we see indicates in past decades that being the main region that has expelled more migrant population into the states. So that's very important that the administration, Claudia Sheinbaum, will continue to focus on these underserved regions. So in order to reduce the immigration numbers that we have had historically. Moreover, the upcoming administration focus on comprehensive planning is crucial. President-elect Sheinbaum's plan is forward-thinking approach that considers territorial planning, natural resources, energy, social housing, health, and education. This holistic approach will ensure that economic growth is sustainable and benefits all segments of society, which is very important in order to reduce crime activity. Innovation, digitalization, sustainability, and regional vocations are key to driving this plan. By fostering these elements, we can support the relocalization strategy and ensure that the benefits of economic growth are widely distributed. Inclusion of young people, women, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and the southern and southeastern regions of the country in economic development is essential. This inclusive approach will not only enhance economic resilience, but also create a more equitable and prosperous society. As we look to ensure, as we look to the future, it is also important to address the issue of economic dependency. Staying away from over-reliance on any single country, particularly China, is a strategic move from Mexico. Diversifying our economy partnership and strengthening our relationship with the U.S. will help mitigate risk and ensure stable and sustainable growth. By fostering closer ties with American businesses and leveraging the opportunities present by nearshoring, we can build a more resilient and dynamic economy. In conclusion, the election of President-elect Sheinbaum is a new era of opportunity for Mexico and the U.S., and especially for Arizona. By focusing on sustainable energy, strengthening our economic relationship, and embracing inclusive growth, so we can create a brighter future for both nations. Let us seize this moment to deepen our collaboration, drive innovation, and ensure that the benefits of economic growth are shared by all. And one last data that I want to mention, this is about immigration and the border and what's happening in Arizona. We have the report daily by the Border Patrol Tucson sector. We used to have 3,000 crossings in the Arizona-Sonora border by December of last year. Now, and because this great collaboration with President Biden and President López Obrador, the southern Mexican border has been secured. And yesterday, the last report I have from Border Patrol is 400 apprehensions. 60% of them are Mexican national, and a few of them are from Central America. We don't have people crossing from or being detained from Asia or other parts of the world. So that's the last data that I want to say, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Consul General Jorge Mendoza Yescas, based in Phoenix. Appreciate your community involvement and also your knowledge. Let's now continue to go around the room and stay in Arizona with David Farca, who's the president of International Business Group. David, you've been working back and forth across the border for many years. Consul General referred to you or you had a role in the Ducey administration, very knowledgeable about trade back and forth. And now privately, you're working on a variety of different projects. What are you seeing? What are some of the things we should be keeping in mind right now?
Thank you, Doug. First of all, I would like to start by recognizing Consul Jorge Mendoza Yescas. He's done a fantastic job in Arizona. And traditionally, the role of the consul obviously has to be an interaction politically with the state and with the business community. But Consul Yescas, Mendoza Yescas, has really brought the consulate to every single Mexican and Mexican American in the state to make them feel like it is their consulate, and he's done a fantastic job at it. So kudos to the consul. In regards to the business trade and business environment in Mexico, I'd like to start to address some of the comments that both Juan and the consul have made. I travel to Mexico City every month, at least a week a month. I use public transportation. I don't have to have security. Maybe it's just because I'm not that attractive of a target, but I feel it's very secure. I walk through the streets of Mexico City. Again, I use public transportation. I take Uber, and I feel it from what I do on an everyday basis as a very secure city. In fact, if you go to certain areas of the city, like Colonia Roma, Colonia Condesa, that has become extremely popular with Americans. Mexico is a country that has been in the forefront of extending visas for digital nomads. There's a large population of young Americans living in those neighborhoods in Mexico City and working for American companies just online and taking advantage of the low cost of living and the fantastic quality of life that a city like Mexico City has to offer. So that's something that's happening. In fact, you walk through some of those neighborhoods and it's not uncommon to listen people speaking English in restaurants, in shops. It's been a very friendly city for digital nomads. If you look at tourism, just visiting cities like Monterrey, Guadalajara, Mexico City, they're extremely safe to visit. I've heard a lot of people traveling to cities like Barcelona, and the pickpocket situation, the mugging situation, it's every single people that visits there gets pickpocketed. It doesn't happen in a city in Mexico, in my experience. So just comparing some of that. It's also been mentioned about the federal police. The federal police in Mexico has not existed in at least the last 5 years. We have the National Guard now. Federal police is no longer an entity that's active in Mexico. So just to disband that comment. And also immigration, when we're talking about immigration, there's a Pew Research study that was released a couple of years ago that shows that Mexican immigration is actually negative. What do I mean by that? There's still Mexican nationals crossing to have a better life for their families, but the opportunities that have been created in Mexico are so vast that some Mexican nationals have opted to go back to Mexico to seize those opportunities. So if you pull up that Pew Research study, it'll show that at least for Mexican nationals, immigration has been negative. We also talked about foreign direct investment. And as you mentioned, foreign direct investment into Mexico continues to grow. I completely agree with that statement. We just have to be careful because a lot of that foreign direct investment, it's actually reinvestment from foreign entities of revenues generated in country. And taking that into consideration, yes, it continues to grow, but we have to focus on new foreign direct investment coming into the country. Mexico has foreign direct investment promotion and protection agreements with many different countries. When you look at the overall political situation globally, after COVID, when a lot of companies looked at the challenges of doing business in China, it opened the window for nearshoring and what we're seeing in that indirect investment into Mexico. But it also opened other markets. They're looking at potential investment in Vietnam, Bangladesh, Thailand. But when you look at that, and they start looking at being in the same timeline or the same time zone as the US and having a population that's really familiar with US culture and speaking the language, it's a big advantage on the Mexico end. Mexico has free trade agreements that allow you to export duty-free to over 50 different countries. That's a huge advantage, the geographic location with both coasts being very close. It continues to make Mexico a very attractive country for foreign direct investment. A couple of other points that I would like to mention is Mexico's 10 largest sectors in the economy, which together account for 75% of the total production. Only 2 of those sectors have grown, which is financial services and construction. The current government of López Obrador, and I think it will continue with President-elect Sheinbaum, is they really have focused on infrastructure. They're trying to do large-scale projects. So that's why construction has grown significantly in Mexico. If you're in the large construction industry, it's a very good opportunity to invest in the country. One last point that I would like to mention is in the defense sector. I'm involved in that sector. Mexico has actually decreased their investment on defense. And I want to make a very clear, it has increased the budget of the military, but it has also given different tasks to the military, which means that budget doesn't necessarily go into defense. A lot of the maintenance and a lot of the purchases that need to go for specifically defense are being channeled towards other tasks that the military has been given. Some of the criticism is that the military is involved in tasks that it shouldn't be involved in, but for them to be able to stop some of the corruption that's going on and to really make a little bit of change in efficiency in those agencies, it has been given a task to the military to take over. We would hope that in the years coming, that gets transitioned again. So we will keep an eye out on that. And that's all I have for now, Doug.
Fantastic. Great summary. Thank you very much. We goal is to finish up in 10 minutes, so we don't have very much time, but we do want to hear from Jeffrey Garza Walker. He's our the managing director of NAI Horizon, probably the most world-renowned commercial real estate global leader in the United States. We're very fortunate to have him based in the southwestern U.S. He's also the board chair for Global Chamber Phoenix. Jeff, we know you as JGW, the famous JGW, and you are very involved with business back and forth between the U.S. and the world, and including Mexico. Could you give us your perspective, please? Uh-oh. Are you there, Jeff? Let's see. It looks like you are on mute. Or am I on mute? Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure. I don't recognize that symbol next to your name. Let's see. I'm not sure what's happening, but you might have to. Oh, you're connecting to audio now. Okay, that'll help. So could you unmute yourself? I don't see an unmute ability on my side. While we're waiting for Jeff to you might need to log off and come back on. I'm not sure. But the symbol that, oh, there you go. That looked encouraging. Can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yay. Yep, that did it.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes? No?
We can hear you.
Oh man, this is horrible. All right. Tiny bot, no.
We did hear you for a moment, but I don't think you can hear us. And something you just did unmuted yourself or put yourself back on mute, but we did hear you for a moment. Not now. Technology. So while we're waiting for JGW, are there any questions or comments based on what we've heard? And if I just ask you for any question that you might have, just leave it to about 30 seconds so that we could just kind of move quickly. Any questions, please?
Crazy.
So I can hear you, Jeff.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you right now.
Hello? No?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, that's
You want to just say a few words? Can you hear us? Maybe not. Well, this is unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to remove the spotlight on Jeff, and it looks like we're probably going to have to wrap up without hearing from him. Are there any additional comments from anyone? I think we heard a lot of different perspectives. We've heard some things that are frightening. We've also heard about some different opportunities that are around. Any final comments that we'd like to make? I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I'll go maybe to the Consul General. Are you there? Hey, Christian Aguirre in Global Chamber Hermosillo. Before I do some final wrap-ups with a couple of the speakers, is there anything that you would like to share relative to what you're seeing in Hermosillo?
Hi, Doc. Well, here in Hermosillo, Sonora, we are much closer to the U.S. border. The situation has been still promising and positive. We've been in the South business for 5 to 6 years, sending large amounts of trucks into the U.S. Unfortunately, the process has been smooth, and there have been checkups for the trucks in the military checkpoints and everything, and the situation has been positive. That's all I wanted to add. But definitely the recommendations coming from the speakers are very important. But as in anywhere, you cannot go fully trusting who will you be making business. Global Chamber is a great platform to connect with people in Mexico and to do the right channels of business, right? So we are here to help and support in your process for import-exports.
Great, an
Jeff,
unexpected
can you hear me
plug
now?
for Global Chamber. Yes, Jeff, can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's crazy. I had to actually log off and log back on. So.
Okay, very good.
All
Now
right.
we can hear you. We only have a couple minutes though.
Yep,
Anything
give me
that
my
you'd like
3
to
minutes
share?
of fame. Yeah. So I'm the yin to Juan's yang. So I've been in and out of Mexico already 6 times this year. Been doing hardcore industrial assignments cross border for the last 7 years. And I think it's like anywhere. You go anywhere, there's crime. You just got to know where you're going. You've got to, look at the opportunities. I just came back from Hermosillo where I spoke at the Sonora and Global Conference. and nearshoring is exploding. Mexico is our largest trading partner. So look at the data, right? Mexico surpassed China. They now have a middle class. They're growing. I think all of the issues that are brought up are legitimate issues, but I think that Mexico is well poised to handle that. I think the immigration portion is going to go one of two ways. If you talk to any CEO in the United States, they'll tell you our biggest problem is labor. And they can't get the labor here, but we don't want to allow the labor. So I think if we don't allow the labor, then I think you're going to see more companies that are going to start to go down to Mexico. And China's already figured it out. China is the largest investor in Mexico right now. So they are absolutely understanding that that's the way they can come through and avoid the tariffs. And that's being addressed as we speak. I think Mexico has finally woken up and realized, okay, no more free rides. I think the other issues are power and water when you're talking about industrial sites. All these things are good things for us because what it's done is it's brought nearshoring, friendshoring. I call it Team North America. Canada, United States, and Mexico have come together, and we are now, if you were to look at any region, we're the best region to be working together because we have all the resources and the things that we need. So it behooves us to do that, and I think we're well poised for that. Certainly in the political structure, there's always going to be challenges. But I think the steam is in the engine, so it's not going to slow down. It's not going to stop. Nearshoring has really propelled Mexico to really become what I think is going to be the next probably major player when it comes to industrial development. And so, with that said, we have to work together to try and make these solutions valid. And certainly, there's issues out there, but I'm excited about our opportunities, and they're unfolding before us right now. I've actually had 5 companies this year that came up from Mexico that used to be one way. It was everything going down to Mexico. Now we've got companies from Mexico that want to have warehousing here, not to manufacture, but to distribute. And they know if they want to get contracts in the U.S., they need to have a location. So we're seeing a lot of that happening. So it's cross-border. It's happening, it's happening, it's happening. So I'm going to leave you with a breath of fresh air and tell you, look at the glass as half full, and it's only going to get fuller. And I certainly am not dismissive of the issues that are out there, but I think that that's really, unless you've traveled and done business, I've seen some of the chats going on. Look, if you're talking to your buddies, that's a whole different conversation. Talk to the people that are actually down there conducting business, like David, like our consulate general, even Juan, he does business down there. Everything is about what you're doing when you're in country. And it's just like I said, if I went to Chicago tomorrow, and I went into the inner city, I could probably get shot, right? Well, same thing Mexico. If I go to the wrong place, things can happen. But the business climate is absolutely amazing down there. There's a lot of people that are moving, a lot of things that are happening that are positive. And I will tell you, look, I tell people, don't even fast forward to 5 years. Look 3 years down the road, and let's see what the economy of Mexico is doing and what nearshoring is happening and how that's benefiting the U.S. and Canada. As the partners in this Team North American. So I leave with that, Dougie.
You're amazing. Final word to David Farka. I think Juan had to leave and also the Consul General had to leave. David, could you make any final comments and then we'll wrap up? Sorry, we don't have time for questions. We went a little bit over on all the presentations. And apologies to Yuka in Barcelona, who's on this call, and the conversation about the pickpocketing. I've been pickpocketed in other countries. I'm from New York, and so all of the crime that we talked about seems like child's play to some degree, based on my neighborhood where I grew up. So I feel sorry, Yuka, that we picked a little bit on Barcelona because pickpocketing is one issue, and there's some fundamental crime issues that Barcelona does not have. So apologies out to you. David, could you make the final comment, please?
Yes, thank you, Doug. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think that for the amount of people showing up really talks about the interest in doing business with Mexico or continuing to do business with Mexico. And I think that if you focus on organizations that you're a part of, like the Global Chamber or like the Arizona-Mexico Commission, just stay within your lanes and be introduced to the right people, you should be fine doing business cross-border.
The opportunities are there, and David, as you pointed out, the data shows that the foreign direct investment is increasing. These opportunities are real, and hey, doing business anywhere, there's issues, and there's certainly many issues in Mexico. The goal of today really was to determine whether things are going to fundamentally change. What I took away from this is that they aren't, and in fact, things will more than likely continue on mostly a good track for business, especially for those interested in investing in Mexico. The social issues, hey, that's, certainly something hopefully that gets sorted through, but we're here to talk about business and what as business people we should be involved with. Talk to David, talk to any of the speakers here. Obviously, I saw the comment about Jeffrey dropping the mic. Jeffrey Garza Walker is amazing. He's not just amazing here in this call. He's an extraordinary leader and someone you should be connected to. Connect up with all of the speakers here, and definitely connect up with business in Mexico. It's going to continue. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.